Hi guys, it's Andy from Man City Fan TV and welcome to Rodri, the heir to the throne. Now, with the exception of Ederson, probably the most indispensable player at Pep Guardiola's disposal is Fernandinho, or Fernando Luis Rosa. Now, as we know that we've got an absolutely incredible in-depth squad, but the one position that we've been crying out for is this central defensive midfielder to somehow take over from Fernandinho. Now, as we've seen in the past, certainly the last year, we've missed out on the likes of Jorginho, Jorginho, Fred, and also Frenkie de Jong, who went to Barcelona. But if you look at it, and you look at the players that City have tried to, and Pep Guardiola in particular, have tried to shoehorn into Fernandinho's role, we've had the likes of John Stones playing at centre-back. We've had the likes of Fabian Delph trying to play in that midfield defensive role. We've also had the likes of Ilkay Gundogan, who's done really, really well this in the last season. But none of them are Fernandinho. So by all accounts, Manchester City are going to activate the release clause of Rodri Hernandez for £63 million. Now, what we're going to do in this particular video is we're going to take an in-depth look at the tactical analysis surrounding the likes of Fernandinho and how Rodri could potentially fill that particular role. First off, what I'd like to do is I'd like to look at, let's go back a bit. Before we go into the Fernandinho and Rodri role, what I'd like to do is go back to Johan Cruyff. Now, as we know, Pep Guardiola has been the fulcrum of Johan Cruyff's sort of dream team, and he was the fulcrum of this central defensive midfield role, and nobody knows it better than Pep Guardiola. Now, nobody knows better this particular role than Pep Guardiola, and you've seen throughout his career at Barcelona, at Bayern Munich, and now at Manchester City, how that central defensive role is just absolutely critical into the way that Pep Guardiola plays. We've seen the likes of the way he promoted Sergio Busquets through the Barcelona Youth Academy to play that particular position. We've seen the way he purchased Xabi Alonso and played him in that particular role at Bayern Munich, and how he converted Philipp Lahm from a right back into a central defensive midfield berth. Before we move into sort of everything else about Fernandinho and certainly Rodri, what I'd like to do is go back and look at what is this actual position, what is this actual tactical analysis around or surrounding the way that Pep Guardiola likes to play. And what this is something called juego de posición, and that is it's all about positional play and transitional play between the defence and attack. It's not just simply about keeping the ball and passing it 100 times between two centre-backs. It's much more complicated. So this positional play is not just about moving the ball as quickly as you can into the final third. It's about progression. Xabi Alonso was an exponent of Pep Guardiola's system at Bayern Munich, and basically he turned around and his quote was, "Playing better is not about reaching the opponent's goal faster. It's about arriving there with better conditions." And it's about progressing the ball into the final third in a gradual manner and achieving a positional and numerical superiority in certain key areas. So what is juego de posición? Well, basically it's all about giving the offence a set of guidelines to play within a structured scheme. Now you might look at that and think, well, what does that mean? And what it actually means, it's about dividing up areas of the pitch. And the player field is divided into specific zones with 4 vertical lines and some horizontal lines as well. And you can see this example here from Pep Guardiola, certainly when he was at Bayern Munich, and he's adopted this at Manchester City. And players have a specific tasks and responsibility within these particular zones depending on the phase of play. The unique thing basically about this concept is that the options are predetermined by the opposition of the ball, and if the ball is on the left wing at midfield, then the zones that must be occupied are entirely different when the ball is on the right of your own 18-yard box. The team must use continuous ball-orientated shifts when in possession, and these shifts must be coordinated to give the team as many passing options and running lanes as possible, but while simultaneously causing the opposition problems. Short passes, switch balls, and the rotation of the ball's position are absolutely integral tools that are defined by a complex positional tasks that are actually assigned to each individual player. So if we look at another of these graphics, and what you'll see here is the fact that this basic idea has been also adopted by Louis van Gaal, which ironically, I'm sure you've read that Wayne Rooney said that he was the best coach he's ever played under. But he was also accused of this highly dogmatic approach and using this particular rigid system when it comes to training. However, it misses the point. The goal of juego de posición is, or if you want to call it in German, Position spell, is that the zones and the tasks within each of these things, these areas, are flexible and can be occupied and used by different types of players. There are usually problems in the implementation in training or an adjustment and understanding of the players. Rigid positions and extremely dogmatic styles are created specifically for when the players don't know when to leave their positions or aren't confident in other particular positions. Now, there are also guidelines for this. Now, triangles should also be formed in order to maintain short passing combinations, which is extremely important when you look at this whole process. And what we're going to do is we're going to show you, certainly in the likes of Fernandinho's role and potentially Rodri's role, just how they use those triangles to maneuver players, not only their own players, but opposition players in a different way. Now, what we're going to look at is this other graphic here. And what you'll see is that the fact that the ball carrier should always have 2 or ideally 3 passing options, basically in a diamond rather than just solely a triangle, even though a triangle would definitely work. But if you can get into a diamond, then that opens up 3 options for passing. Further passing options extend from these shapes, and they should also arise throughout the team in an organised and connected manner. The triangles emerge from the fact that no more than 3 players may be in a line horizontally and no more than 2 players in a line vertically. So basically, if a player moves onto the same line as another player in order to offer himself, let's say for a pass from a defensive midfielder or a centre-back, the other must switch to another line. So basically what they're doing is they know from training that this area that they work in, if somebody else is going to occupy a particular line across, they know that it's time now to move to a different segment, section, whatever zone, whatever you want to call it. So this is drilled in, day out. Now, what I've done here is I've tried to put together a quick short video that I did earlier so that you can see these triangles and these formations of players moving into different positions and the way that they create space and the way that there's always this triangular option and how Fernandinho is absolutely crucial to this particular role. So take a look at this video. Okay guys, what we've got here, I've picked a team with Ederson, Walker, Mendy, Laporte, and this time we put Maguire in with Fernandinho because I want to talk about Fernandinho's role. Kevin De Bruyne and David Silva are ahead of him. Sterling on the left, it could be Sane. Bernardo on the right, it could be Sterling. And Aguero up front. So the key to juego de posición is this play here. It's this triangular football. Not only between Ederson, Laporte, Ferna, but it's also Ederson, Stones, Maguire, Ferna, Laporte, Ferna, Mendy, or you could have Mendy back here, Ferna, Sterling even. So it's this triangular football which is absolutely paramount in the whole system of juego de posición, and it's about how many players are across the line. So we've got always got two options. So if the ball is played from Ederson to Laporte, he's always got two options, Mendy or Ferna, possibly even three, Maguire, or back to Ederson. If Ederson plays to Maguire or Stones, Maguire then has Kevin De Bruyne, Walker in this triangular football. He's also got the option of Ferna moving across here, beyond the strikers or the attacking midfielders, finding the space there that creates this triangular football between these players. Likewise, he can always come here and still play this triangular football, or it can be here and play this triangular football. So it's really important, and when they're in the attacking phase, we've still got these triangles between these players. With Ferna moving into this position, we've got triangular football. We've got here, here, and here if needed. And if they press well and they fill those gaps, we can always come back to Maguire. We can go across to Laporte or Mendy, and we can still pick up. And the key to it is Fernandinho being able to move across the line, moving beyond or ahead of the attacking press, so that it gets in a position that there's always two options, always for him, whether that be immediately from Ederson turns and goes forward, but there's always options available to him in this triangular format that is juego de posición. So this is absolutely critical to the way that Pep Guardiola plays. We know that Ferna is just one of the best in world football. He's probably the best that could possibly play the Pep way. All comes from this man here, Johan Cruyff, who's passed this down. And there's others, like I said, there's others that with Van Gaal and others that play this type of juego de posición sort of football, but nobody does it like Pep Guardiola, because this is his absolute key player, and this is the position that Rodri is going to have to take up and learn very quickly at Manchester City, because it's all about receiving the ball, being in space, being able to play this triangular football, moving players out of position, and then continuing this triangular football forward. And then when they've not got the ball, we pull into a three, so he'll drop down here, or Walker will drop down here, so we've got this three across the back, or Mendy, and Laporte pulls in, and Ferna occupies this particular space, or this particular space here, when we're pressing against a counter attack. So it's just absolutely imperative that Rodri, when he does come to Manchester City, adopts and learns this role that Fernandinho does better than anyone in world football. So anyway, we're moving back to the video now, and we'll take a look at statistics. One thing you need to remember is that this is not tiki-taka. Now, Del Bosque in 2010 and also in 2012, he adopted this tiki-taka style where it was mainly about possession. that is not juego de posición. That is not that particular style. So there are two different styles that are in here. So please, when people refer to it as tiki-taka, it's not tiki-taka. Del Bosque's was keeping possession, consistently moving all of the time, but not necessarily about moving the ball forward all of the time. So there is a difference between the two terminologies. So I'm going to show you some more graphics. There's quite a lot of graphics now that are coming up on the screen. And basically what this is, as you can see here, this is during the first sort of phase build up, and it's really, really important to not only be able to play through the press cleanly, but it's also having the positional awareness to be able to offer passing options, because any turnover in possession in the defensive third is likely to result in a chance for the opposition. So as you can see, once the play progresses to the middle of the pitch or the final third, Fernandinho tucks in between the centre halves and he keeps that play moving. The position requires basically a really unerring proficiency to keep that play moving. That is what this is all about. This is Pep Guardiola's style. It's also the press resistance along with the tactical and technical prowess to be able to interpret space and the passing lines. So not only is he looking at space to be able to receive the ball, he's also looking at body shape, body movement, and the next pass that goes through the next triangular or diamond phase. Now, if you look at this next part, just equally as important is this playing out the back and receiving the ball and keeping possession and moving the ball forward to the final third. Is the defensive element. So if you take a look at this graphic here, what you'll see is it's the facet of that particular role that Fernandinho plays. It really comes into play in the case that there's an overturn in possession. And in order to fit sort of that classic number 10, like Kevin De Bruyne, David Silva into the midfield roles, then pushing the fullbacks high up the pitch whilst playing a high line and counter-pressing effectively is really, really important to Pep's system. The structured play puts players in positioning in order to be able to counter-press really, really well and very effectively. And we basically employ this inverted fullbacks, which means that they're stationed in the respective half spaces, going back to those boxes we were talking about earlier, which creates a numerical superiority basically in attack and also protects against that counter-attack. And Fernandinho's position is essential to basically congest that midfield and that middle areas of the pitch where the counter-attack is at its absolute deadliest. So you can see in this picture he can cut off the passing lines, intercept the ball, and also to commit, as we know, to these tactical fouls. So from this position he can move to either side to help out a teammate who maybe is pressing the opposition player on the ball by basically squeezing the space that is left, and he helps to decrease the distance required to counter press effectively. So this is all important when it comes down to the system. Remember, I said there's never more than 3 in a horizontal line. What Fernandinho does is absolutely crucial in this role. So you can see clearly from the image that I've just shown you, he moves into that area. There is 3 in a line, but somebody moves out of that, which creates other space, which means that other players have to occupy that particular position. So he does this absolutely brilliantly well. So looking at Fernandinho then, and we know he signed from the Ukrainian side Shakhtar Donetsk back in July 2013. And he's become one of the best players basically in that particular position in world football. I think Guardiola, but he said, I think Fernandinho can play in 10 positions at a press conference. He said he has the quality to play wherever. He's quick, fast player, so intelligent, aggressive and strong in the air. And we've got to remember that when Fernandinho is absent, the loss of aggression that we have in our play, the superb passing ability and exceptional reading of the game in his replacements is very apparent, and we've seen it. So if we look at, we've tried to replace Fernandinho now for 2 seasons and we've missed out on certain targets, but basically we've now gone in for Rodri Hernandez from Atletico Madrid. That looks like he will be signed very, very shortly. One of the other key areas is the statistics show just the loss that we've had, or the downgrade we've had when the likes of Gundogan. And I say that in a way that, of course, we've just been on the back of a treble and possible 4 trophies, if you want to call it that. But there is a significant difference when Fernandinho plays and he doesn't play. The fact that City has only won 59% of their games in Fernandinho's absence since Guardiola took charge of City is a big contrast to 71.3% when Fernandinho plays. So, moving on to the heir apparent, and this is Rodri Hernandez. Now, the Spanish midfielder is tall, is lanky, 22 years of age, from Atletico Madrid, and you could be forgiven for confusing one for the other, as Rodri has been termed the new Busquets, and he does play like Busquets. The similarity in their frame and playing style is so eerie that you could start watching a Spanish national team game at a random point and not figure out who he's actually playing. He's had a meteoric rise in the past couple of seasons. Smooth midfielder. He's already one of the best in his positions in world football. He has this unerring sort of efficiency, an absurd but deceptive sort of simplicity in his game. His ability to be able to receive the ball and invite pressure just to basically drop a shoulder and release the ball is absolutely majestic. His technical and tactical sagacity makes him one of those who Pep Guardiola player basically written all over him. I mean, he looks like Sergio Busquets when you see him play. Now, his actual statistics are excellent. He's got a knack of keeping the game flowing, spraying passes all over the field. His passing accuracy across the season was at a ridiculous 92.5% compared to Fernandinho's 89.7%. Even though Fernandinho played more long balls with his 4.44 long balls per game to Rodri's 4.41, Rodri has a vastly superior accuracy. His long ball conversion rate was 71.3% compared to Fernandinho's 59%. Rodri is a more dynamic player, basically, of the two. And in a defensive Atletico team, he completed 1.47 dribbles per game to the Brazilians, Fernandinho's 1.43. And now, if you look at the success rate of his dribbles, 84.3% for Rodri, 71.8% for sort of Fernandinho. So any artistic player is often like an artist who's been handed a paintbrush by their manager to paint a masterpiece on the football canvas. Now, we know there are workhorses, the likes of your Claude Makelele, your N'Golo Kantes, players who do all the actual dirty work, compared to allowing the artists basically to do their own thing. Rodri's consistently shown that his artistic abilities coexist with his defensive nous, which I think is really important. On an average, he's won 21.7 duels, had 5.48 interceptions and 11.69 ball recoveries in the opponent's half. If you compare that to Fernandinho, he had 19.9, which is less than Rodri, 4.98 less than Rodri, and 10.19 less than Rodri, respectively. So there's a reason why Pep Guardiola has actually looked at Rodri and thought, is as close to, a Fernandinho as we could potentially get. However, it's still going to be very difficult to fill Fernandinho's shoes. There's no doubt about it. And as much as Rodri has these statistics, Fernandinho is exceptional. And what I want to do now is just show you these heat maps of Rodri compared to Fernandinho. So, as you can see here, City have basically, City have basically tried to shoehorn different players into that particular position. But basically, Fernandinho is a jack of all trades and a master of one, and he's a brainiac. He's mastered Pep's system with a real uncanny ability to be able to be in the right position at the right time defensively. he covers an awful lot of ground, and which is vastly superior to Rodri. And you can see by the heat map there the difference between both players. The zone covered is almost the same as in the sort of area of importance, but Fernandinho's influence on both sides of the halfway line is much, much greater. So Fernandinho's average goals, assists, shots on targets are vastly superior. His influence on the offensive structure is critical to the way that we play and the way that we City keep this ball circulation moving all of the time. Rodri's numbers are no doubt influenced by Atletico's Madrid style of play. We know that they're a different type of beast to Man City. But City averaged 63.2% possession with an accuracy of around about 89.1% compared to Atletico's, which is only about 49% possession and only an 80% completion rate. But City completed more passes per game and spent 35% of the time in the final third, where in comparison Atletico's forays into the final third was only at 29%. City's attacking nature basically means that we're always looking for, that verticality. That means more progressive passes, more passes into the final third. I mean, our numbers absolutely dwarf those of Atletico's. So basically, to top it off, City score more than double the number of goals that Atletico do from open play, and it's these factors in turn that affect the offensive numbers for both midfielders. But Diego Simeone's preference is to sit back, win the ball with greater numbers in a defensive role. Fernandinho isn't far off Rodri's numbers, but has a much better influence on the attacking element. So it just goes to show you, Fernandinho, is an outstanding player. His statistics are absolutely incredible when we look at them compared to the best players that are out there in those positions. And don't forget, in 2018-19, when Fernandinho played, Man City conceded 0 goals from counter-attacks. So, hopefully, by the time you watch this video, maybe Manchester City have announced the signing of Rodri Hernandez. He's going to need a period of adaptation to get into the rhythm of the Premier League. We know players coming from Spain sometimes need that little bit of time. But even though he's a player tailor-made for Pep's system, it's going to take a lot of work on his part to get the hang of a really specialised role at Manchester City. And you only have to look at the stats I've just provided for Fernandinho. Hopefully, this tactical analysis will show you that Rodri's got some big shoes to fill in Fernandinho's. However, his ceiling is so high, there's a possibility that his inclusion into the Man City squad, is going to elevate City to our game to a completely different level. And hopefully, he may be that missing piece that elevates City to be the one trophy that we're missing at the moment, and that's Champions League. And in return, Rodri gets to learn from the school of Pep. So it's a win-win all round. So I hope you really, really enjoyed this sort of tactical analysis on Rodri Hernandez, Fernandinho, and the whole issue surrounding Pep's tactical, basically, genius. And if you've got a comment below, please don't forget, subscribe to Man City Fan TV, comment below the video, give it a thumbs up, and if you like what you've just seen now, it does take a long time, but if you enjoy it and you want more of this type of tactical analysis, then please let me know in the comments below. But this is Andy from Man City Fan TV. This is Rodri, the heir to Fernandinho's throne. Take care, we'll see you soon.